Thank you. Without objection, the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Kucinich, may proceed.
I request unanimous consent to claim the 5 minutes.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Speaker, this morning I stood before this House and pointed out that The Nation magazine did an investigation that showed that U.S. tax dollars were going to U.S. contractors who then gave the Taliban money so that the Taliban wouldn't attack shipment of U.S. goods to U.S. troops. And of course, U.S. troops would use those resources to attack the Taliban. The war in Afghanistan is a racket. We have a strategy to pay off insurgents, warlords, the Taliban, and pretending that somehow this practice is going to help make an already corrupt central government more stable. I've been in this House now for 7 terms, and I have seen the slow and steady erosion of the Constitution of the United States, and in particular, congressional authority with respect to Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which very explicitly puts the power to create war in the hands of the United States Congress, not in the hands of the executive. When the founders crafted the Constitution, they were very clear that they did not want a monarchy. They wanted to, what was called, restrain the dogs of war by placing the power to commit men and women into combat in the hands of an elected Congress, in this case, in the hands of the House of Representatives. Unfortunately, over a few generations, we have seen that power of Congress erode. Today, according to ABC News, Hamid Karzai, the president of Afghanistan, in a joint press conference with Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, said that his country's security forces will need financial and training assistance from the United States for the next 15 to 20 years. Now, since we're already spending at least $100 to $150 billion a year in Afghanistan, we are now committing, through Mr. Karzai, we're embarked on a strategy that could lead us to spend $2 trillion, maybe more. We've had speakers precede me today who talked about the need for jobs in the United States. Goes without saying, we should start taking care of things here instead of endeavoring to pour our resources into a corrupt administration and, furthermore, engage in a kind of corruption through trying to pay off warlords and even the Taliban in order to create shipments to our troops. As President Obama prepares to escalate military operations in Afghanistan and Pakistan, we must reassert our constitutional prerogative as it relates to war. The United States has been involved in military action both in Afghanistan and Pakistan since the inception of this administration, despite the fact that the President has never submitted a report to Congress pursuant to Section 4A1 of the War Powers Resolution. Madam Speaker, when Congress returns in 2010, I intend to bring to the floor of the House privileged resolutions reasserting this congressional prerogative. My bills will trigger a timeline for timely withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan and Pakistan, invoke the War Powers Resolution of 1973, and secure the constitutional role of Congress as directly elected representatives of the people under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, for Congress to decide whether or not America enters into a war, continues a war, or otherwise introduces armed forces or materiel into combat zones. Despite the President's assertion that previous congressional action gives him the authority to respond to the attacks of September 11, 2001, a careful reading of the authorization of military force makes clear that this authorization did not supersede any requirement of the War Powers Resolution and therefore did not undermine Congress's ability to revisit the constitutional question of war powers at a later date. We will have an opportunity in this House in January to vote on this issue of Afghanistan and Pakistan, and I urge my colleagues to join the resolution, which I'll begin to circulate the notice of starting tomorrow. Thank you.
Mr. Hall of Texas.